An SABC News presentation.
A very good evening to you and welcome to this week's episode of Interface. Thank you for joining us. My name is Eusebius McKaiser. The decision by the University of Johannesburg to cut ties with Israel's Ben-Gurion University has of course generated mixed reactions. Those supporting academic collaboration between the two institutions accuse the UJ of suppressing free speech and academic freedom. But the University of Johannesburg argues that the decision, in fact, was a matter of principle, that they had to take a stand against the university because of its relationship with the Israeli military. And the relationship between the two universities dates back, of course, to apartheid, although the particular agreement that is at issue is much more recent than that and obviously happened after the Rand Afrikaans University was no more. But before getting into our discussion, let's take a look at this scene setter.
The Ben-Gurion and Johannesburg University saga has pitted academics, activists and students against one another. UJ accuses the Ben-Gurion University of supporting the Israeli military and occupation. It also claims there's evidence suggesting that the BGU engages in research that supports armed Israeli forces in Gaza. Prominent academics and politicians added their voices to the fray by signing the UJ petition. They say that South African institutions are obliged to revisit relationships forged during the apartheid era with institutions which turned a blind eye to racial oppression in the name of scientific research. Students at the University of Johannesburg say while they recognize Ben-Gurion's status as one of the best universities in scientific research and technology, they support the move.
What is happening there and what the task team reported, it goes against the principles and the values of UJ. But at the same time, we are saying we can still have students who goes there and do their research, but not according to the relationship of UJ.
Some academics have accused the University of Johannesburg of putting politics ahead of academic expression. The South African Union of Jewish Students say they are disappointed.
This boycott really hit us hard because we don't believe that boycott is a way to achieve peace in any sense. In my opinion, the only way we're going to achieve peace is through dialogue and through engagement.
The organizations say the decision was one-sided and a reflection of political agendas. Kinosi Kwene, Interface, Johannesburg.
Well, do you support the decision by the University of Johannesburg to cut ties with Ben-Gurion University in Israel? You can SMS your views to 33726. And now to take our discussion further, let's welcome firstly Brenda Stern, who's the Executive Director of the SA Associates of Ben-Gurion University, and of course also Professor Habib, well-known analyst, but he's joining us today in his capacity as the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg. A very warm welcome to both of you. Adam, I want to start with you because I'm really confused. Is this an academic boycott or is it not?
No, it's not an academic boycott. Our Vice-Chancellor was very clear. The resolution at the Senate meeting made it very clear that, yes, we are terminating our MOU, our MOA with Ben-Gurion University, but some people who voted for it because of a boycott position. They held the boycott position. Others voted for it simply because they felt that this had unnecessarily politicized our relationship. And basically, the resolution finally said that we are allowing the MOA to lapse because of the undue politicization that has happened. And it insisted that we will allow individual academics to continue their research and we will create an enabling environment for that. So, for instance, the lead researcher Becky Mamba at the UJ, the lead researcher at BGU, if they decide to continue with their project, we will capture that project in whatever legal contract it's required and allow that and create the enabling conditions for that. So it's not a formal boycott in that sense. It's allowing the MOA to terminate because of the politicization.
So in other words, you're cutting ties at an institutional level, but individual academics can still collaborate with each other.
Absolutely.
But then what's the point? I mean, surely it's just symbolic. Do you not believe your own principles? If you say it's just an institutional tie that's being cut, but the individual academics can still collaborate with each other, then you don't really take seriously your own principled opposition to the relationship with the military, do you?
Well, firstly, there's two sets of people in the Senate meeting. The first is a group of people who support the boycott movement. The second, who actually don't necessarily support the boycott movement, but they believe that this is unduly politicizing the relationship. What they're interested in is allowing the conditions for science to happen. The big question we found, and by the way, the task group which I chaired investigated this matter, we did not find anything that, we found that BGU was involved in research that impacted on the military. But we found that it implemented laws that may have had the impact of discrimination. But we also said very clearly, we were not sure that BGU was the architect of that. The BGU is embedded in an Israeli society, a highly militarized society, and is obliged, like UJ is, to implement state policy.
Sure.
And therefore, in that context, it may be implementing policy that was not necessarily in the... So this decision was not based on any judgment of BGU as an institution.
We'll get to that in a second. I still want to understand your remarks in the media, because what the Vice-Chancellor have said is that this really is just about, you know, terminating formal relationships, and you have said conversely that the relationship will continue informally. But that doesn't square with the text. Surely this is just PR spin in public. The reality is that the text commits you to not being able to, for example, give resources to a bunch of students who may want to go abroad. So are you departing from the text in a PR spin in public, or are you genuinely committed, for example, to say to a bunch of history students, you know what, we can still give you money if you wish to go on an overseas trip to Ben-Gurion?
That might very well be the case. The question is, there's a big difference between a memorandum of agreement and a research contract or another form of agreement. A memorandum of agreement signals institutional intent at the central level. Any other academic, any postgraduate student, any student is entitled by the principle of academic freedom to engage with whomever they want.
Sure, but my question specifically is, if one of those students or academics came to you and said, Mr. Deputy Vice-Chancellor, I want to collaborate in my individual capacity, but I want institutional support, I want resources, can you maybe help me out with a grant? Will you give them some money?
His or her application will be looked at in any other context with any other student. So, for instance, if you had a student who wants to go to Japan or Germany or the United States or Burundi, and a student that wants to go to Ben-Gurion University, it will be judged on the academic merits of the application and not on the basis of where they're going.
Okay, Brenda, let me bring you in here. Do you believe that, in fact, the text is as weak as Professor Habib is articulating it now?
Not only do I not believe the text is as weak, but we have to look at this within the context of the entire campaign. This campaign has been very, very clear in what it has called for. It has called for the termination of the Memorandum of Understanding, which is a formal agreement between two institutions to be terminated on the basis of an academic boycott. With respect to Adam and with respect to the Vice-Chancellor, because the Vice-Chancellor issued the statement, this is an academic boycott. It is an academic boycott indeed, perhaps not in clear word, but it is effectively an academic boycott. An academic boycott is exactly what was called for. An academic boycott is exactly what the UJ Senate had delivered.
There you have it. Brenda doesn't believe you.
Well, that's the problem. Brenda believes what she wants to believe. If you look at the Senate meeting, if you look at the minutes, if you look at the resolution itself, the fact that somebody petitions to want to end off a relationship because of a reason A, and the Senate decides, after 12 months of deliberation, I might, that we're going to terminate the MOA for reason B and allow academics to continue that, that's a fundamentally different reason.
Can I just disagree with it?
All kinds of people begin processes with all kinds of intentions. Ultimately, what has to be read is that Senate resolution, the decisions that is made. I have spoken to Brenda and the president of the Associates of BGU. They asked me, would you formulate a research contract for...
And please join us after this.
Fantastic workout. Must be great for my skin.
It is. But that isn't
Why not? It's a beauty soap.
Try Dettol Herbal.
Thanks, but aren't hygiene soaps harsh on your skin?
Not this one.
New Dettol Herbal has aloe vera, avocado oil and other botanical extracts that provide nature's care for your skin. And unlike beauty soaps, has the goodness of Dettol to eliminate germs. New Dettol Herbal. Be 100% sure.
You are booty calling Bobby Wall. No! There's a picture.
Tomorrow night, we start from square one and dinner out to celebrate. How does Nobu sound?
Tomorrow night? I can't. I have a date.
Revenge is oh so sweet in Kashmir Mafia, Tuesday at 8:30 on SABC 3.
Welcome back, and you're of course watching Interface right here on SABC3, and we're still discussing UJ's decision to cut ties with Ben-Gurion University. And of course, our vote line question this evening is this: do you think that the decision by the University of Johannesburg to sever ties with Ben-Gurion University was justified? And you can SMS your views to 33726. I just want to backtrack a little bit, Adam, and then I'll give Brenda a chance. What is the basis in the first place for wanting to sever ties? What is it that you don't like about Ben-Gurion University?
Well, let me tell you, originally what we had was a group of senators of UJ actually came up and said that they would like us to break this relationship because they felt that we shouldn't be having a relationship, formal relationships with an Israeli institution. They felt Israeli institutions were complicit in the oppression of the Palestinian people. We put a task group together, we investigated that matter to investigate with the BGU. And we found in that task group that we couldn't, with any degree of certainty, come to the conclusion that BGU was responsible. Yes, it implemented policies, but those were state policies in many cases, and not necessarily BGU policies. But we felt that we would like to evolve this into a three-way partnership. We then went to Israel, we went to Palestine, we went to the West Bank, spoke to the institutions, and all of them said that we cannot do this. And what we felt that we would like to evolve this into a three-way partnership. We then went to Israel, we went to Palestine, we went to the West Bank, spoke to the institutions, and all of them said that we cannot do this. And what we found as part of that visit is that the MOA had become an obstacle to good science. What had happened is it complicated issues, it politicized issues, it put our people under pressure, etc. In that context, we said, what are the best conditions to make science happen? And we felt if we let the MOA terminate, individuals can do it. That creates the context. Let me bring in
Brenda here, because what some people who are not in the room with us might articulate is a different set of reasons. Some people do feel that Ben-Gurion University's relationship with the military is unethical, to put it mildly. What do you feel about those accusations, or indeed the slightly different reasoning of Adam?
Okay, I'm going to come back on those two questions. I just want to clarify one thing. The argument that you cannot have institutional ties, but you can have some kind of research framework agreement is completely disingenuous. You either have relationships with an institution or you don't have relationships with an institution. An institution is not an anonymous, amorphous body. It is made up of the very academics with whom you're going to be collaborating with on that research. So the idea that you can say, well, we won't have institutional ties, but we'll have research framework agreements is just, with all due respect, a completely facile argument. The reality is that those agreements, with their research framework agreements, memorandums of understanding, whatever they might be, we had an existing agreement signed after due process had been gone through by UJ administration as to whether it was a good research agreement. There were various meetings around management, there were visits to Israel by scientists. The fact is it was seen as a robust, significant, of significant benefit both to UJ and to South Africa.
Okay, but I want to move on, Brenda. I'm going to stop you there. No, I want to stop you there. I mean, I think it's clear that there may be some different interpretations for what this text actually means. But I want to ask you a more pointed question. Does Ben-Gurion University have an appropriate relationship with the Israeli Defense Force or not?
Ben-Gurion University has exactly the same relationship with the Israeli Defense Force as Harvard does with the United States Defense Force, as Cambridge does and Oxford does with the British Defense Force. The fact is that there's cross-pollination between military and civilian research all the time.
But surely there's some things that are very specific to BGU. I mean, let's take consistency out of the equation. We're talking about BGU specifically. For example, you guys paid students a stipend to go on the operation in Gaza, and that kind of thing doesn't signify the kind of institutional behavior that another institution would want to collaborate with.
with respect, I'm just going to dismiss that falsehood out of hand, and I appreciate that it's been put into public space and has now become gospel. The reality is that donors, 25% of the funding for BGU comes from donors. They can allocate that funding wherever they like. The fact that they allocate it to soldiers, both women and men, who are legally obliged to fulfill their military obligation and who were involved in Operation Cast Lead and have assisted them in their private donations to assist them with their living costs or their financial studies or their fees, is part of a democracy.
But that sounds to me, Brenda, like you're not denying that those students were paid to go into that operation. All you're saying to me is, I've got a defence, but you're not denying that it happened.
Those students were not paid to go into the operation. Those students were required to go into the operation by virtue of the legal obligation they have to fulfill military service.
What about the fact then also that many of these soldiers are allowed certain special dispensation? You can complete a degree within 2 years. Given that Palestinian students can't be conscripted, in effect, what you're doing is discriminating against a portion of students who come to the university. Again, how do you square that with a commitment to having the same rules applying to all students? It smacks of discrimination, doesn't it?
No, not at all. In fact, once people know about the facts, then, and I mean, the fact is, you know, do you have discrimination? Well, you can call it whatever you like. The reality is that those shortened BA courses are particularly for people serving in the Israeli Air Force. They are particularly designed around both their military obligations to train and the academic requirements. It is a requirement if you're going to be accepted into the Israeli Air Force, like almost every Air Force in the world, the best and the brightest are accepted, you have to have a university education. The fact is, Palestinian students who are currently today studying at BGU, I mean, this is the irony of this entire boycott, is that we have Palestinian students doing postdocs, we have Palestinian students who are students at BGU, we have Palestinian students who this very boycott will discriminate against.
Let me bring you in here, Adam, because it seems as if Brenda's got a retort for every single one of the big allegations that some of the lefty academics have made about the nature of this relationship with the military. Do you believe her? Because if you do, presumably there's no need to cut ties even institutionally.
Well, as I said to you, our rationale from the Senate meeting is an MOA. We terminated the MOA on the grounds that it overly politicized the issue. If you're asking me, do I believe as an analyst entirely what Brenda is saying, is I think it's a much more complex situation than Brenda is making. The fact is that BGU is involved in a highly militarized context and is obliged to implement racialized, sometimes discriminatory, sometimes less discriminatory policies of the state. It's exactly what Wits
Do you find it an
University
objectionable relationship?
And I think many people around the world find it an objectionable thing, and it puts...
Do you find it
BGU
objectionable in your capacity as UJ Deputy VC?
We could not find sufficient... We could not pronounce on BGU as an institution because it was obliged to do so from a state position, like we are obliged to implement the Higher Education Act.
No, but that's, Adam, with respect, that's a little bit like saying an institution during apartheid was obliged to have collaboration with the apartheid state, and therefore we can't say much because they were legally obliged to do so. Why can't you put your foot down and take a stronger moral stand, in accordance with your text, by the way?
Because I've got to make sure that my Senate meeting, which is the vast majority, you asked me here as the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg, and that Senate meeting simply didn't take a dramatic support of the boycott position. What it said is, we feel, the majority of us feel, that this has overly politicized that relationship. If you want to speak to Adam Habib, I'm happy
we have to
do
go
that.
shopping, and we'll be on a more constructive note after this, explore whether this is the best practical way to make a difference in the Middle East. But for now, let's take another short ad break, but please don't go away.
Hello, doctor, please tell me now. Please tell me how I take this life and get it right. Hello, doctor, I wanna live the best life that I can. You know I got to live the best life that I can. Today, I wanna live the best life.
Traveling in style with Sarah Ryan Duffy.
I cater to the high-end, demanding clients that keep me running 24/7.
It's a pain in the butt, but it's got to be done this way.
The trips that I create are one-of-a-kind experiences. I personally accompany your trips to make sure you don't have to lift a finger and get VIP treatment. And we're doing it like we do everything. First class,
all the way. First Class all the way, Thursdays, 7:30 on 3. Plotting a downfall.
Of julle soek 'n lift huis toe of julle soek moeilikheid. Of is dit al twee? Wat sê Harry? Hy sê Dirty Minds het alles gevat vir 'n special issue.
He wasn't just trying to scare me. Well, he broke my bloody phone.
Hotnotsgorde, Tuesday, 9:30, stay with 3.
Welcome back. You're watching Interface, your premier current affairs show, right here on SABC3. And of course, to participate, please SMS your views to 33726. A complex number of issues. We could talk about it the whole evening. But Brenda, I mean, in terms of the way forward, do you believe that a boycott, or whatever you want to call it, this decision that has been taken, will it make a positive difference to help the interlocutors in this conflict in the Middle East to be able to have a positive and constructive dialogue with each other?
Not at all. In fact, it's so ironic that while UJ have elected to boycott BGU, and I have to say that the Vice-Chancellor's statement, 2 days before the Senate decision, we asked the Vice-Chancellor specifically in writing to either distance themselves from the so-called UJ-BGU report or to endorse it. But this idea that they were tacitly endorsing it by their deafening silence needed to be cleared. He did neither. But afterwards, as a damage limitation exercise, he suddenly came out with, oh, this is not an academic boycott. The fact is that today, being the first day of the working week in Israel, we have Palestinians and Israelis on BGU campus working on the water issues, the very same water issues, the very same project that has just been cancelled in South Africa. The very same project that could benefit South Africa, but which is now lost to South Africa in the midst of this political turmoil. And that is the real tragedy. And we have to ask ourselves, can we as South Africans afford to give up the educational opportunities that South Africa so desperately needs because of an external political influence? The reality is that UJ has capitulated to an extremist external agenda which seeks to delegitimize Israel and does not seek to promote
Adam, I don't want to get into a discussion whether or not Israel is the only place where one can save South Africa's water crisis.
No,
I want to ask a more constructive question here. And the question is this: if you guys want to make a constructive difference to this conflict in the region, surely the way to do it is to keep the communication channels open. But what this kind of decision does is it creates animosity and it shuts down the possibility of dialogue.
The question is, you know, as actually the Dean of the Humanities Faculty in Ben-Gurion said, one of the ways if you want to work with Palestinians and Israelis in the Middle East, the way you do it is outside formal agreements. Actually, 90% of our agreements, of our research, actually occurs outside MOAs. And for us, the MOA had become a problem. We believe we would like to engage in the Middle East. We want to bring Palestinians, we want to bring Israelis around the table. The only way we can do that is if we don't have an MOA, because otherwise it's so politicized we can't get it. Let me raise two other issues which I think are absolutely crucial from the South African perspective. One is the associates of BGU have constantly raised the issue that the global rankings of BGU is higher than UJ. Now, that's that big question for us is, firstly, there isn't an understanding that UJ is a comprehensive institution with 21,000 diploma students, and the global rankings don't take that. But the question is, what does that mean? What does it intimate? It suggests that you're a lesser university, and therefore you shouldn't be engaging us. And that is really problematic. It says it wasn't an equal, in their perspective, it wasn't an equal partnership.
That
is the problem.
Sorry, I just want to respond to that, Adam.
I'll give you a chance, Brenda, in a second.
The second thing is, and that's the problem, we're not into colonial relationships. That MOA was going to be an equal one. The second thing is, these kind of threats about boycotts. Now, as a public institution, we don't get threatened we don't make decisions on the basis of threats. But what is worrying is South African citizens who are threatening a public university by mobilizing foreign opinion. I disagree with government all the time. You don't see me going around mobilizing foreign governments against the South African government.
Brenda, I'm going to give you a chance. You're desperate to get in there.
I have to say that he's just, Adam, with the greatest respect, that he's so rich coming from UJ. This entire campaign has been absolutely mobilized by the global BDS campaign Farid Isaac has been, with his little political rent boy, Mohammed Desai, has been the absolute proponent of this. It follows a global trend of BDS campaigns around the world. So with all due respect, I am going to treat that with the contempt
But
it deserves.
Brenda, on the other hand, when you have, for example, the president of Ben-Gurion University writing in the LA Times and saying, we're a proudly Zionist institution, you turn your institution into something that is an ideological framework, therefore not independent. Surely, with that kind of messaging, what else do you expect but universities with a liberal penchant running away from ties with you?
Well, I mean, the first question I ask you is, why is she not allowed to say she's a proudly Zionist institution? Why is Zionism delegitimized as a legitimate ideology? Why is Zionism suddenly rejected as a completely legitimate ideology, which is completely multifaceted?
That's true. That's
so
true.
why is that? Because
but when
Zionism
other
has become a
academics
swear word.
within Ben-Gurion University, like Professor Gordon, suddenly wants to argue that there should be boycotts, then academic freedom is not allowed. But when there's an articulation of Zionism, it is allowed. Where's the consistency there on the part of BGU?
With all due respect, Professor Neve Gordon was not only allowed to make his call, he was promoted to head of department. The fact is, we have a vociferously robust academic debate on campus at BGU, and the reality is, and I just want to make this point because it's a sore point for Adam, we don't make the international rankings, okay? The reality is the international rankings are there. We have always said, and you will have noted in my interview with Chris Gibbons in the Sunday Times, that I said that this is a two-way partnership. This is a good laboratory. Israeli researchers were coming here, BGU researchers were coming here. Research is an ongoing dynamic thing depending on the environment.
Actually, Adam, you can't run away from that fact. The truth is, we do have a water crisis. We may be running out of clean water within 10 years. Some researchers are saying that 80% of our water will not be purifiable if we don't handle that issue in 15 years.
Well, let me just answer to that, because I want to be categorical on this. Between you and me, we have enough technology and research in this country to address our clean water, our water supply issues, our clean water supply issues. It's a matter of investment, it's a matter of public investment, and it's a matter of skills. Now, obviously, the science is important because it can enhance our technologies and it can enhance. But it's scaremongering of the worst kind. When you say South Africa's poor are going to be forever confined to drinking bad water because this project's not happening. This is spinning to the worst extent.
We're going to run out of time. I don't want us to get hung up on whether or not we need BGU in order to save us from our thirsty days ahead. The question, Adam, that I want to get back to you that you dodged a little bit earlier is this. If you want to intervene positively when you have interlocutors who are disagreeing with each other, surely you're not achieving that by having this kind of agreement. What is your final sum-up thoughts on that?
I think what we can do is, my job is to make sure that science happens. What's happening here is Beki Mamba, and if his lead researcher in BGU want to work, I will put a contract together. They're talking about that at this very moment. Okay. I think we can get both sides around the table much easier without an MOU, and I think that has been proven in multiple cases. Okay.
That's fine. Brenda, where to from here for BGU?
It is a completely semantic and facile argument. A document is a document, a relationship is a relationship, institutions are institutions. You can dress it up however you like. UJ has capitulated, they have jeopardized their own academic autonomy, and at the end of the day, BG is not the saviour of South Africa, but if we continue to disregard the fact that we need both academic skills, research and development, and that these are not off-the-shelf solutions, but this is robust academic research that is happening in the interest of everyone, UJ has lost an invaluable opportunity to not only challenge the lack of academic freedom within the Palestinian Academy, and to challenge them to come into a multilateral and say, we as South Africans know constructive engagement is the way forward. The reality is they can boycott us. Today and tomorrow, we are going to continue working with our Jordanian partners on our water project, with our Palestinian partners, and life will continue.
Okay, well, I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Quite a bit one can talk about. This is obviously not going anywhere, and sadly, that is the end of the evening. We've got to say goodnight at some point, but please join us again next week when we will be having the Democratic Alliance spokesperson, Lindiwe Mazibuko, and then we will find out whether really Cape Town is heaven on earth and whether the DA is capable of doing the same in the rest of the country. But thank you for your contribution. 25% actually said no, and 75% said yes in agreement with UJ's decision, or rather the other way around, but it's on your screen nevertheless. And for the moment, I'm afraid that is all that we have time for this evening. But thank you so much for joining us. And of course, kindly remember to send us your views on this program and any suggestions you have on topics to interface on 3 at sabc.co.za, or these being modern times. You can also find us on Facebook. But of course, from me, Eusebius McKaiser, and the Interface team, Good night and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Kenzo has to do a school project on loving families. And it's up to Michael to explain that special Harper magic.
Does that answer your question?
I didn't get most of that.
My Family, Monday at 8:30, only on 3.
What to watch on 3 tomorrow. All the adrenaline rush of The Amazing Race at 7:30. Then Keeping It Together in My Family at 8:30. And the importance of partnership in Till Death at 9. Stay amazed with 3.